Taluan found himself repeatedly in the company of Princess Era, who seemed particularly interested in Earth culture. Her questions were insightful, focusing on art, governance, and family structures rather than technology or resources. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability," she observed as they stood near a window overlooking the planet below. "To have spread across your world despite its varied environments, and now to reach beyond to the stars. Necessity drove much of our innovation," Taiwan admitted, "but curiosity pushed us to the stars." The formal dinner began an hour later. The delegation was seated at a circular table with various Lumi dignitaries. Dishes of unfamiliar food were presented with elaborate ceremony. When a server placed a small bowl containing what looked like luminescent pearls before Taiwan, an elderly Lumi at his side leaned closer. "This is Calavish, Captain, a rare delicacy reserved for honored guests. It is harvested only once every 9 cycles during the alignment of our moons." Sensing the importance of the moment, Taiwan nodded in appreciation. He carefully took one of the pearls and, following the example of the Lumi, placed it on his tongue. The flavor was unlike anything he had experienced, sweet yet complex, changing as it dissolved. "It is wonderful," he said truthfully. Wanting to show proper gratitude, he bowed his head slightly and placed his right hand over his heart. A gesture of thanks on Earth. The room fell instantly silent. Every Lumi in the hall froze, their attention fixed on him. Princess Era, seated directly across from him, gasped audibly. Her iridescent skin flushed bright pink, the color spreading across her face and neck like watercolor on paper. The elderly Lumi beside Taiwan gripped his arm. "Captain," the royal interpreter whispered urgently, his translator barely able to keep up with his rapid speech, "you have just performed the sacred gesture of betrothal to Princess Era. In our culture, that hand motion, combined with the acceptance of royal food, constitutes a formal proposal of marriage." Taiwan's blood ran cold as he looked up to meet Princess Era's wide, shocked eyes across the table. Taiwan stood on the balcony of his guest quarters in the eastern wing of the Lumi Royal Palace. The 3 moons hung in the night sky, casting a silvery glow over the crystalline city below. He turned the small device in his hand, examining it carefully. It was no larger than a coin, but its purpose was clear. Someone had been listening to his private conversations. "4 more," said Princess Era, entering the room with a small container. Her skin rippled with darker blue patterns, a sign of concern Taiwan had learned to recognize over the past 2 weeks. "I found these in the meeting room where your team gathered yesterday." Taiwan took the container, examining the tiny surveillance devices, same design as the others. "Whoever is watching us has access to advanced Lumi technology." After discovering the first listening device, hidden in his quarters 3 weeks ago, their formal, awkward interactions had transformed into a reluctant partnership. The accidental engagement remained in place. Neither could find a way to cancel it without causing diplomatic disaster. But now they had a more immediate problem to solve. "Someone doesn't want the Earth-Lumi alliance to succeed," Era said, seating herself at the edge of a crystalline table that glowed faintly in response to her presence. "These devices are military-grade, not available to ordinary citizens." Taiwan nodded, moving to the workstation he had set up in the corner of the room. Components from Earth technology lay scattered across its surface, alongside Lumi crystal circuits Era had provided. "I've been working on something," he said, picking up what looked like a small sphere constructed from parts of his communicator and pieces of Lumi technology. "It should create a field that will disrupt these devices without alerting whoever placed them." Era moved closer, her dual-pupilled eyes studying his work with fascination. "How did you determine the frequency to block?" "Trial and error, mostly," Taiwan admitted. "I tested different signals until I found one that made the devices stop transmitting." "Remarkable," Era said, her skin shifting to a lighter shade that indicated interest. Lumi engineers would have followed established protocols, consulted historical records of similar problems, and applied tested solutions. It would have taken weeks and required approval from 3 different ministries. "Humans solve problems differently than we do," she observed, touching the device gently with one slender finger. You don't rely on established methods. Tai-1 smiled. We call it thinking outside the box. When you've only been traveling between stars for a century, you learn to improvise. Captain Tai-1, Kim stood at the observation deck of the Earth vessel Harmony, his eyes fixed on the approaching alien world. Lumi glowed in the darkness of space, its surface dotted with brilliant crystalline structures that reflected the light of its twin suns. The ship's engines hummed as they slowed for their final approach to Lumi Station, a massive orbital platform that served as the gateway to the planet below. Magnificent, Ta-1 whispered, adjusting the collar of his formal diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric, embroidered with the golden insignia of the United Earth Alliance, felt stiff and uncomfortable, but he knew appearances mattered today. As the leader of humanity's first official diplomatic mission to the Lumi Empire, every detail counted. Behind him, the door to the observation deck slid open with a soft hiss. Commander Jun Park entered, datapad in hand. Jun had been Ta-1's right hand throughout their 6-month journey across the stars. Final approach in 10 minutes, Captain, Jun reported, coming to stand beside him at the viewport. The crew is ready. Our gifts for the royal family have been prepared according to the briefing materials. Ta-1 nodded, his expression serious. And the team has reviewed all the cultural notes we received. Yes, though they're frustratingly incomplete, Jun frowned. The Lumi have shared only basic information about their customs. Their ambassador warned that some aspects of their culture cannot be explained, only experienced. That's what worries me, Ta-1 said, watching as the station grew larger in the viewport. One wrong move could set human-Lumi relations back decades. The diplomatic course selected you for a reason, Jun reminded him. Your record of first contact success is unmatched. Those were with species we had studied for years, Ta-1 replied. The Lumi kept themselves isolated until recently. We're going in nearly blind. The ship's communication system chimed. Captain, we've received docking instructions from Lumi Station. They're rolling out quite the welcome. Thank you, Lieutenant. Tell the delegation to assemble in the main airlock. We make our entrance in 5 minutes. As the Harmony completed its docking procedures, Ta-1 led his team of 12 diplomats, scientists, and security personnel to the airlock. Each wore the same formal uniform, their faces a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Remember, Ta-1 said, addressing the group one final time, we represent not just Earth but all of humanity. Observe carefully, speak thoughtfully, and above all, show respect. Their customs are largely unknown to us. Tread carefully. The airlock doors parted with a mechanical groan, revealing a vast docking bay unlike anything they had seen before. The walls seemed to be made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. A delegation of tall, slender figures waited for them on the other side of a ceremonial arc made of intertwining metallic vines. Leading the alien delegation was a figure that stood out even among her own kind. Princess Era of the royal house of Lumi was taller than the others, her posture regal and confident. Her skin, unlike the uniform pale blue of her companions, shifted between shades of blue and violet like the surface of a soap bubble. Her eyes, large, almond-shaped, and containing 2 pupils each, studied the humans with unmistakable curiosity. Ta-1 stepped forward, bowing slightly as had been suggested in their limited cultural briefing. Greetings from Earth and the United Alliance. We come in peace and friendship. Princess Era moved toward him with fluid grace. Up close, Ta-1 could see that what he had taken for clothing was actually part of her body, a series of overlapping plates that resembled an elegant gown. Welcome to Lumi, Earth Delegation, she said, her voice melodic even through the translator device at her throat. I will be your guide during your stay. The Emperor, my father, is pleased by your arrival and looks forward to formal meetings tomorrow. Tonight, we have prepared a reception to honor your journey. Ta-1 smiled, relieved that the initial greeting had gone smoothly. We are honored by your personal welcome, Princess Era. My team and I look forward to learning about your world. The reception was held in a vast hall within the station. The walls curved overhead to form a dome that revealed the stars beyond. Gloomy attendants moved through the crowd carrying trays of food and drink, while soft music played from unseen sources. The human delegation mingled cautiously with various Lumi officials, each conversation carefully monitored by translators. Tahoe stared at the boundary, the truth slowly dawning on him. Humans were engineered specifically to contain the hollow. To communicate with it, Ju corrected. To help it understand our reality. To convince it not to erase sentient life. As darkness fell completely, something extraordinary happened. Human figures appeared on the hill around them. Not solid, but not quite transparent either. They wore clothing from different time periods in human history. Some carried spears, others wore modern clothes. All faced the shimmer. The hollow exists outside time, Admiral Minho explained quietly. So do those who watch it. What you're seeing are echoes of guardians across thousands of years, all standing watch at the same moment. Are they ghosts? Tahoe whispered. Time doesn't work the same near the boundary. Sunwoo said. Past, present, future. They blur together here. These are real humans from different points in history, all performing the same duty. One of the figures turned toward them, a young woman in ancient clothing. She looked directly at Tahoe with eyes that seemed to contain galaxies. We volunteered, she said, her voice somehow both distant and crystal clear. All of us, throughout time. The ancients didn't force us, Admiral Minho added. They asked, and we agreed. Every human soul makes this choice. The spectral woman nodded and turned back to face the shimmer. The maps end at human space, Ju said softly, because what lies beyond isn't space anymore. It's something else entirely. But why keep it secret? Tahoe asked. Why not tell the Galactic Union the truth? Fear, Sunwoo answered simply. If other species knew what exists beyond the boundary, there would be panic. Some would try to destroy the hollow, which is impossible and would only provoke it. Others would worship it as a god. And some, Admiral Minho added grimly, would try to use it as a weapon. As they spoke, the shimmer pulsed with new colors. The spectral guardians raised their hands in unison, and the boundary calmed again. Every day, somewhere in human space, the hollow tests the boundary, Ju explained. And every day, humans maintain the connection, the communication, the balance. Tahoe watched the silent guardians, understanding at last the weight humans carried. What happens now? He asked finally. To me. I know the secret. You return to the Galactic Union, Admiral Minho said. You continue your work as a cartographer. But now you understand why the maps end where they do. And you never tell anyone what you've seen, Sunwoo added. For their safety, not ours. As they walked back to the vehicle, Tahoe took one last look at the boundary and the silent guardians keeping their eternal watch. 3 days later, he stood at the window of his small apartment in Galactic Union headquarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere among them, humans stood at the edge of reality, protecting species who would never know what was being done for them. That night, he completed his latest star chart. When he reached the edge of human space, he carefully marked the boundary with a simple line. No explanation, no notation, just as it had always been. But now he understood why the maps ended there, and why no one dared to ask why. The maps ended at human space not because of politics or fear, but because humans stood at the edge of everything the galaxy understood. Not as conquerors or explorers, but as guardians, keeping watch at the boundary between existence and something far worse than oblivion.